Hey folks, my name is Pravus, and welcome to more Plague Inc. Evolved as we continue our Mega Brutal Guide series. Let's talk about the Nano-Virus, and this is a fun one. Right off the bat, the government knows that you exist, and they will be transmitting a kill code, also known as the cure, in order to shut you down. So from the very beginning, this is a race against the clock. The Nano-Virus is all about speed. And there are a couple of different bonuses for this plague type in order to help with that. First off, it generally has better stats than a lot of the other diseases. It also has an extra long cure timer, though you'll see that gets eaten up very quickly, so I wouldn't rely on that. It also has multiple ways of fighting the cure, and it has reduced symptom costs, so you can pick things up pretty darn quickly, which is very, very nice. This is one of those plague types that I would say my strategy has evolved a lot over the years. I used to focus a lot more on fighting the cure early on. Nowadays, I tend to focus more on symptoms and just going for my speed, and it tends to work pretty well. I usually can win. It's just a question of if you can go fast enough to get 5 stars or not. For our genetic code, I'm going to go for the ATP boost. The extra DNA is quite helpful early on since this is a speed run. Genetic Mimic is better than Darwinist. We're not going to have as many opportunities for evolutions, and anything that slows down the cure is going to be nice. Aquasite, I think, is still a necessity. Extremophile is pretty good, and I used to recommend people go for the Pathostasis, but nowadays I tend to focus on Symptostasis, and you'll see exactly why in just a minute. We'll call this one Dark Damage, and let's go ahead and start in Saudi Arabia. Now, let's take a look at our abilities, because a lot of the scenario comes down to timing these out nicely. We have the code Fragment Interception, which slows down the broadcast, so it's another version of genetic hardening. We also have Radical Element Stabilize, which resets the cure, so it's like another genetic reshuffle. Okay, that's good enough. Both of these trees get more powerful until you reach an ultimate ability. Down this route, you will reach the Replicator Overload, which is going to give you a massive increase in your transmission for a few weeks. But once it runs out, your transmission slows down substantially for the rest of the game, so timing this out is very important. And down this route, you'll be able to shut down the cure entirely for a few weeks, which is great if you save it toward the very end of the scenario, so you can have a nice slow cure and then hopefully get a very good score. But once this runs out, they start curing you very, very quickly. So again, the timing is important. And if you get both of them, you can ultimately get a special ultimate ability called the Kill Switch, which slows down the cure so much, it's practically like playing a regular disease. But by the time you get to that point, I do find that the AI is shutting down their ports and you can lose. So when I focused on this before, I think that was a suboptimal strategy. Nowadays, I think it's much better to go for the symptoms. And we're going to be going for a lot of severity early on and infectivity, but I mostly want severity so I can get a lot of DNA. So I'm going to pick up Rash and Coughing. Those both have very good infectivity rates for the amount of DNA you spend. But then let's show you the power of the symptom cost reduction. I'm going to go for Cysts, Hypersensitivity. Paralysis is free. Coma is free. I know, it's a little bit ridiculous, but it's obviously going to be pretty good for us. I might as well pick that up. Yes, it does have a little lethality, but not enough that I think it's going to risk the ports getting shut down before we are ready. So I'm okay with it, and that extra severity is going to be great for getting some early DNA. Plus, technically, we are slowing down the cure a little bit right from the get-go, which seems nice. So let's go back over here. We're going to go ahead and pick up that code Fragment Interception. Notice in the bottom right, they've already started working on the cure. In fact, if we open up the world, you can see the entire world is already working on us. That's why we have an extra long cure timer, because the world is literally out to get you from the very, very, very beginning. Let's go ahead and swap back over to symptoms. I'm going to keep slowing down that cure by going for things like Insomnia, Paranoia. I also could pick up Seizures. I think this is optional. Instead, I'm going to go for things like some sweating and the skin lesions. We will probably pick up Seizures. It's really not that bad. The extra lethality can, believe it or not, be a little bit useful, and the extra severity isn't bad either. But I'm going to go for the skin lesions, get that infectivity a little higher. Then we're going to go for the sneezing. Everything's still quite cheap for us, by the way. And then we'll probably pick up Abscesses, and then I guess I'll go ahead and pick up the Seizures. Really no harm in doing that. So I'm just going for a lot of severity and a lot of infectivity, taking advantage of the fact that I have extremely cheap symptoms in order to get me where I need to go. But this is about the point where we haven't hit critical mass in Saudi Arabia, but we're just starting to reach the point where we could theoretically get on a plane or a boat and get around. So now is the time to actually swap away from this and start thinking about how we're going to get out of this country. And that means air and water transmission come up next. So let's go ahead and pick this up once we have 9 DNA, which should be very, very soon. I say that, there we go. Okay, cool. Now we can get air, so now we have a good chance of getting onto a plane. I do want to get a good spread across the world as fast as possible, because now we're getting 4 or even 5 DNA for every red bubble that we pop. That's how much power we're going to have from this this much severity. It's really, really quite good. So I'm glad I got the severity before we got out of Saudi Arabia. This lets me get the most value possible, and we're going to need every bit of this DNA in order to evolve things quickly enough to actually race the clock and win. Let's go for that extreme bioaerosol, so we've increased our chances of getting to the islands. That is great. And now we need to start thinking about, well, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and reset the cure a little bit. We're down to almost 60% in the cure, and that looks quite bad. No way around it. But if we pick this up for 5 DNA, you're going to see this resets down to 39%. So it's a pretty big pushback, right? Like, this is very, very impactful stuff. I'm going to save some of this for a little bit longer. We could pick up the code segment Interception. I think that's okay, but right now what I'm most worried about is spreading in the cold countries so we can get to Greenland. So let's go ahead and pick up Pneumonia and then some cold resistances. Kind of a normal approach here. We are in Russia, so anything that helps with that is going to be good. I think I need 14 DNA for the next one, so let's do that. Sorry, 15. Genetic drift is starting to kick in. And we can also go for some drug resistance, which is going to help a lot in places like Europe and so on. Now, the Nano-Virus does have a third tier of drug resistance, which is going to be quite helpful for us when dealing with these rich countries. Need to get 25 DNA here, so let's do that now. There it is, drug immunity. So basically this means that we are going to be practically immune to any of the wealthy resistances that normal countries would have. So we're eliminating Europe's advantage, which is quite nice. And now that we have that, we're going to be slowing down the cure as much as we can, buying a little bit of time for us to kind of spread further in the world before we activate our first special ability. So that is going to be the Replication Factory Overload. Temporarily, for just a few weeks, we are going to get a huge boost in transmission. Like double or I don't even, maybe even triple, I don't know. Huge amounts of replication, which means we are going to spread very, very rapidly. But once this runs out, we're going to have lower infectivity overall. So timing this out so that we get around to the islands quickly is very, very important. So what I'm really looking for here is, are we in Russia and are we in Mexico? Or are we in Norway, right? Any of those. And the answer is yes. We're in Russia, we're in Mexico. We actually already got into the Caribbean, which is one of the islands I'm worried about. So if we spread extremely fast in Russia, there's a very good chance we can sneak a boat into Greenland early on. I also am missing like Madagascar and the Philippines, but I think getting in there won't be so bad. So yeah, now it's not a bad time to go ahead and pick this up. It's a little risky, but you're going to see here in a second, we are going to start spreading so dang quickly, it's insane, and picking up lots and lots and lots of DNA. Let's start slowing down that cure. I'm going to grab a couple more levels of genetic hardening just to make things a little bit easier for us. We did get into Greenland, still missing the other islands. Hopefully those ports don't shut down. I will feel really, really bad if it turns out that that does happen. And now we can start thinking about our lethality, because it's kind of time to start planning that out. So I'm going to go for necrosis, and we're going to go for insanity. That slows down the cure more, and we can start spreading as we kill people. Really hope we get into Madagascar and the Philippines. I'm going to feel really dumb if this doesn't work, because it always has in the past. But so far, we have not managed to. Oh, that don't feel good. That don't feel good at all. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm a little bit concerned now. At this point, we could pick up the total organ failure. It's a very good amount of lethality. It's usually a little on the expensive side and hard to pick up. If you can't go for total organ failure, pick up something cheaper like dysentery, like hemorrhagic shock. They're both quite good, but both of them together are more expensive than total organ failure. So you kind of pick them up just based on what's needed to get the most lethality possible. Please, please, please. We got into the Philippines. Okay, come on, Madagascar. Don't mess with me. There we go. I see us getting in there. The main risk of picking up total organ failure is that we are going to have so much lethality that we kill faster than we can infect. I'm hoping necrosis is still going to be enough to deal with that, but we will see. At this point, though, we should, in theory, have one. It's just a question of, can we kill fast enough in Madagascar? Madagascar is rural and poor. I could consider going for something like livestock just to speed that up. Like, that is the one thing that could mess with me here. I don't know. I think I am going to pick up dysentery, and then we're going to hold on to some DNA for a brief moment and just get ready for resetting parts of the cure. Yeah, I think that we're going to have a problem here in Madagascar. We are spreading, but not fast enough. This might have just cost me my 5-star victory because of this. Okay, well, let's go for the hemorrhagic shock. I'm just trying to kill quickly. I'm just going to assume, as long as we keep spreading here in Madagascar, we're fine. We're hitting critical mass here, which is good. So at this point now, we should definitely have one. It's a question of, when do we want to pop our final ability? So we're going to go for an encryption breach, which is going to set back that cure a fair bit, again, toward 45%. And then we can go for broadcast interceptor overload. So for a few weeks, the cure is going to get reset and then make no progress whatsoever. But once it runs out, that cure comes back and then starts running faster than ever. You don't want to pick this up before the scenario ends, right? You want to wait on this until there's only a few people left alive, So just a few short weeks, like right now around like 1 million people left is probably fine. We'll go ahead and pick this up. And there we're going to get the best score possible. Let's go for a couple levels of genetic reshuffle, just trying to reset a few more things. I'll pick up the systemic infection and, I don't know, the nausea and vomiting and the diarrhea. It doesn't really matter. I'm just getting as much of the, complexity for our disease as possible in order to get a really, really good score. And now the world is dead. That's it. It was that fast. Very, very, very quick scenario. Let's take a look. I did indeed get 5 stars. We killed the entire world within 275 days. This actually might now be a personal best, even with Madagascar having a lot of trouble. Only 26% cure progress by the end, and that's with the world working against us right from the very beginning. 134,000 points, 5 stars. Yeah, so the Nano-Virus is just a little bit tricky, just a little bit. But if you do not wait on that replication factory overload, right? Pick it up as soon as you have Russia, as soon as you have Mexico, to make sure you get into those islands you care about, you're gonna be fine. Sure, in the long run, your infectivity is lower, but you'll have hit every country that matters, and then necrosis and lethality should be able to take you the rest of the way without too much of a problem. It's a fun scenario, if nothing else, because it only takes a few minutes, but it does require a very different play style than what you are used to. Follow this guide, and I think you'll have a very, very good time. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative and helpful in some way. If so, I would ask that you hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.